Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Authentic You podcast. Today's episode is a video episode, and I would like to say a special shout out to the child who made this beautiful little shelter in the woods. I'm assuming it was a forest school or something, which has enabled me to have a phone holder to record this conversation today. So I'm so excited you're here. If you're new to my space, my name is Gemma Sandwell. I'm an energy alignment coach. And my background is in neuroscience, psychology, and coaching. And I blend that with the spiritual, the energetics, the quantum to help you align to your most aligned life and business where you can use your sensitivities as superpowers. It really is that transformational journey of transmuting all the things that we thought were wrong with us. Actually, they are the things that are right for us. And they are the things that we are here to use as our gifts to be paid for as well in this world. Okay, so warm welcome if you're new to my space. And what I want to talk to you about today is I want you to reflect on how much energy you spend, or perhaps how much energy you have spent in the past on trying to control situations to make you feel safe. And I know this will resonate with you if you are an empath, if you are sensitive, if you are HSP, if you're neurodivergent. That need to advocate for our needs, to ask for what we need, which in the past may have been a way of keeping ourselves safe. Let's not forget that it's starting to thunder. So let's see how long this episode is going to be today. Let's not forget that in the past, you have learnt to do that to keep yourself safe, right? All that energy that you've been trying to put into, how do I control this to keep that safe? What I want to say to you is, if you bottle up that energy and you put that into, how do I use that energy to create the structures, the boundaries, and yes, even the confidence to be able to have freedom. So I'm going to give you an example of this because I started to do this before I was even full-time in my business. I started to do this when I was in my corporate job. And what I started to notice was the days that I was working in London, right? A neurodivergent brain in London, right? We've got all these extrasensory receptors. This is just logic. This is just science. And this is energy as well, right? And I'm here to bridge the two for you. So a neurodivergent brain in London, you're picking up all the things, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the energies, the everything, because you've got those additional sensory receptors in the brain. And something which I worked very hard to do in my career was to move to a space of freedom, where I knew when I got that nudge that something was too much for me, that I could respond to that in that moment and get myself out of that situation. And same with my yes feeling, okay? So that was the no feeling. And I literally had it today, okay? A little behind the scenes of, and I've done a TikTok showing you this as well today, a little behind the scenes of how I work with this myself. So a few years ago, I got bought these beautiful Cath Kidston china mugs. I've had them for years. You'll know what I mean. If you're in the UK or maybe in the US, you might have this. These, some are floral, some have got strawberries on, some are stripy. And, these came out around that time where it was kind of fashionable to be a bit chintzy and have your afternoon teas again, kind of old English style, right? So I had these mugs. I've used them for years. I love them because they're big and they're china cups. I'm a massive tea snob. I love really good tea in a nice china cup. I know. Those of you not in the UK are going, oh my gosh, she's so British right now. Okay. So anyway, I had these mugs. I had 4. I now have 1. The worst one, the stripy one. Not that fussed about the stripy one. It's all I have left. Anyway, out of these beautiful mugs. And they're the only mugs I like to drink my tea out of. So this morning I was like, do you know what would make a really big difference to my day? Would be if I go to Sainsbury's, because I know they have the lovely Habitat range, and I know there's going to be a china mug for me in Sainsbury's. And then after Sainsbury's, because today what I'm doing is holding space in our coaching container main character May, and we have a coaching day today. So I thought what I will do after Sainsbury's is I will go to this lovely cafe and I will have a coffee, I'll work in that cafe, I'll go for a walk, and I'll still be available. I know there's Wi-Fi there, and I'll still be available on Telegram to coach everyone in main character May today. Here's how this actually turned out, and you'll see here the control, freedom, peace, okay? So I followed that instinct. I went to Sainsbury's. When I was in Sainsbury's, and who knows why this is? Sometimes we will never know, right? When I was in Sainsbury's, I got the shift of energy change, okay? The energy changed, don't know why. Maybe certain people with certain energies came into the shop, something changed, right? Something shifted, something changed. Could even be like, water holds vibration. There could have been energy in the bottles of water I walked past. Like, you just never know, right? But all I know is the energy changed. It became a no. Got my mug. I went to the checkout and I got out. Full freedom to respond to that body. Not making it mean anything. Not going in loops, which in the past I would do. Oh my gosh, why am I so anxious in Sainsbury's? I'm not anxious in Sainsbury's. You're not anxious in Sainsbury's. If you need to hear this right now, you're not anxious in Sainsbury's. It's just energy, right? So the energy went, no, get out. And there's a bird of prey getting involved in our conversation. This is the joy of doing this in the woods. Okay. Then I went to the cafe. I walked in the cafe and I was like, it's a little busy today, considering it's the middle of the week. Okay, this is now a yes and. So it's yes, I can go to the cafe and I need to sit in a quiet corner. So I said to the staff, can I please have that corner booth over there? Yes, you can. They brought my drinks order. I started to do some work in that space, and which felt aligned for me, right? And this is where we can redefine these boxes. Like literally what I'm doing right now is like, who says we can't record a podcast in the woods? Who says I have to be at home with my microphone and my camera? Like, who says that? Who makes those rules, right? Okay. Like, what can you do to I want you to like energetically pick up this activation today of what can I do to create freedom for myself, right? Put the energy into that rather than trying to control the situation that you perceive you are stuck in. Okay. So I went to this cafe. I realised it was actually really noisy, and the walls were metal, and the metal was kind of bouncing back the noise. It was bouncing back the energy. It was not in alignment. So I got up, I got a takeaway coffee, and I came out instead. Okay, so no drama. The yes and didn't quite play out. This has now become a no. This is too much. I need to leave. So I got up, didn't explain myself, just said, can I have a takeaway coffee? I'm going to take it. I'm going to go for a walk. Okay. Do you see what I mean? Whereas in the past, I would have been like, oh no, I made these plans, they're ruined. Oh no, I haven't been able to look around Sainsbury's. Oh no, I haven't been able to do my work in the cafe. I then left the cafe and torrential downpour. And I was just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then I've come here and it's dried up and I'm able to do the video. Okay. So all that energy that you have put in the past, which is no fault of your own, right? Let's have compassion for that around how do I control this situation to be safe? Like that trauma response. Here comes the rain again. Let's see how we get on. That trauma response, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's like, how do I put that energy actually into creating that freedom, creating those structures? So something to keep this really practical for you, something that I have done is I have created the structure of my week. So I have a day that is my content day. I have days that are my call days for client calls. And I have my day that is my creative day. And then I have a flexi day, which is a day that I sometimes use to see family, to see friends, to do some kind of networking, loose term, because I'm very, very fussy about like what that actually means to me. can't do the standard networking. Won't go there, another video. So what I found, and then I have a day with my partner, like we have a sacred day together that we have a day off together as well. So what I have found is it just makes my life so much easier and saves me so much time and energy when I can just be like, this is my week. So if I want to make plans with a friend, I'll make it on this day. If I want to be a bit more flexy on my creative day and work somewhere else, then I'll work somewhere else. If I end up having a day with no calls, which sometimes happens, then freedom to choose, right? My content day is my content day. Nothing messes with that. And then it's just easy. So I've created, and do you know what? Like, let's just layer this on in terms of some other terms that we might use around this as well. So this is also masculine and feminine energetics, right? It's also one of the same thing. It's all the same. How do you advocate for yourself as a neurodivergent person? How do you balance your energy? How do you embody feminine energy? It's all one of the same. Because if you have the masculine structures, they support your feminine flow. The feminine energy wants to flow. The feminine energy wants to be body-led. It wants to follow the body over the mind. This has changed my whole life, following my body over my mind. But you need the structures to do that, because if there's no container to do that, this is where things get chaotic. This is where things get messy. This is where I have to say it. Some things are badged as ADHD. Like, I sometimes have women come to me and say, oh, it's just my ADHD. I just forget, or I just can't do that, or I can't function in that way. It's not just ADHD. And if it is, your brain functions in that way. So you need more structures to help contain, to hold the wild women, right? If your ADHD is so chaotic that you cannot manage your life, you cannot manage your business, you cannot communicate, then I have to say it. That means that wild woman, which is naturally you, needs a container. It needs a container, it needs a structure so it can flow. If the wild woman can't flow, she becomes chaotic. So this is one of the same. This is masculine and feminine energetics. This is how do I advocate for myself as a sensitive neurodivergent woman? And when we do that, we don't have the need to control situations. And we get less dysregulated in situations. And this is another thing that I want to speak to here as well, is we make dysregulation wrong. The amount of times in the past I've had a fight or flight response in my body, I've labelled it anxiety, and then said, why is that anxiety? Why is that happening? I need to heal that, instead of, what is my body telling me? What do I need in this moment? So today in Sainsbury's, I could have said, oh my gosh, I'm so anxious in a supermarket, right? Do you see the difference? Instead, I went, my body is now saying no to this environment, and I'm going to take myself out with no drama. And let's say there was a long queue and I still wanted to buy the mug, right? And I got a little more dysregulated. I had to stay in that no for a little bit. That's where we need to think about the dorsal vagal ladder, okay? So the nervous system, remember, you've got the freeze, the fawn response, you've got the flight response, the fight response, then you come into regulation. So in that prolonged dysregulation, and I kind of intuitively know now, right? So I guess getting myself out was flight, right? We need to get out now, flight. If we can't fly, okay, we've got to wait in the queue. I used to hate waiting in the queue at the post office. This is like the perfect thing for after you've been in the queue, right? I've been in that prolonged state of dysregulation. So how do I enable a fight or flight mode to get myself back into regulation rather than making it wrong? Again, just to bridge this all together for you, this is feminine embodiment work. The rage, the wild woman, okay? The wild woman doesn't want to wait in a queue, okay? But that is reality. So how do we work with that? How do we work with the nervous system? So let's say, for example, I was in that queue for longer than I would have liked, I was noticing I'm in a state of dysregulation, I would probably run back to the car, give myself that flight response. That is it. I might shake it out. I might get in the car and go, rah, put some music on, put some Slipknot on and be like, rah, and just scream it out, shake it out. And then that's it. And then I move on with my day. No drama, no leaks, no, why am I anxious in Sainsbury's? We just shake it off. We do the fight flight, we move into regulate, and off we go. It might be that was not a social situation. It may be a social situation where you need to set a boundary, speak your truth, use some healthy anger, move up the dorsal vagal ladder into regulation. So it's all one of these same: feminine embodiment, advocating for your neurodivergent needs. And when you do that, you find that you don't need to control a situation because you've given yourself the freedom. So I would really encourage you to think about today, what do I need in my authentic way to create structures for my freedom? How do I advocate for that freedom? How do I speak my truth? How do I say, yes, I will see you and I need to do X, Y, Z? I literally did it with a friend this week. So I've not seen her for ages, and I said to her, I've got a lot of stuff going on this week. What would feel really aligned for me would be able to meet up with you, go for an hour's walk in nature and have a catch up. It wouldn't feel aligned to go and sit and go for a coffee. It would feel really aligned to go and walk in nature with you. Does that feel aligned for you? If not, more than happy to do another day. She came back and was like, I would love a walk in nature with you. That sounds so aligned for me. Okay. And I know her, and I know if she was like, no, actually, that doesn't feel in alignment, I want to go to a cafe and have a coffee, then I would say, okay, we'll need to do that another time. It's just easy. It's just easy. Okay. And when we get projections and responses, because I know this is what you're now thinking, I'm reading your mind, right? And you're thinking, yeah, but that person doesn't respond in that way to me. Okay. This is projection. This is a projection of someone else's inability for them to follow that in themselves. And there is sometimes unconscious jealousy around that as well. When they see you lit up, they see you full of joy, they see you living their aligned life, and they feel it's not possible for them. It is possible for them, okay? But sometimes these projections can happen. And sometimes these projections, which I've got loads of content on shadow work and mirrors, sometimes those projections can also be showing you where you could go a little deeper as well, okay? Because sometimes we receive a projection and then we notice we go into the fawn response, okay? Or it creates a fight or flight mode in us. That is not yours, that is projected, but sometimes it is mirroring something in you. So let's say someone gets angry at the boundary you set. That might be a mirror for some really healthy anger within you that needs to come out, okay? Even just, like I said, screaming in the car with Slipknot or whatever it is I do. I do many different anger release techniques, right? Even just with yourself, allowing yourself in that space to scream in your car, to punch a pillow, to, it could even mean that. So I just want to speak to that as well, because I know some of you are going, yeah, but that person reacts really badly when I set a boundary. I hear you. I've been there many times. That is not about you. That is about them. But it's always worth just asking, did I have was I completely neutral to that and just cool, you do your thing, I'll do mine? Or were you what? They're not accepting my boundary. Did you have some kind of trigger reaction in you? If so, that's where all my shadow work content comes in handy. And if you want something specifically, please comment, please reach out to me on socials and I will point you in the right direction of that thing. So I hope this has served you today. And we didn't get a thunderstorm. So I don't know what the stance is. We didn't get a thunderstorm. We managed to carry on doing the podcast in the woods today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now little bee has come to join. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And let me know, do you prefer podcasts in the woods? Do you prefer audio? That's my example of audio, singing into my hairbrush. Or do you prefer, what do you prefer? Let's mix it up, because there are no boxes, right? There are no limitations. And this is your reminder to create that freedom for yourself. And if I can support you, please reach out to me, comment, reach out to me on socials. And the best way to get started with me for free is the Sacred Yes workshop and workbook. If you haven't already got that, you can get that through the link in my bio or reach out to me on socials and I will send you a copy. Lots of love.